right? Now let's look quickly at Matthew 6:23. Matthew 6:23 talks about what is called, the next slide, please, what is called the evil eye. Okay. Now, Matthew 6:23. Okay, let me read it for you. The next slide, please. But if your eye be evil, your whole body shall be full of darkness. If therefore the light that is in you be darkness, and so on. Okay, so here something is being spoken about what's called an evil eye. Okay, and the slide before shows how an evil eye could potentially look like in a very funny, creative way. But what exactly does this passage mean? When I used to read this passage as a young Christian, I thought this is a very, very direct verse that speaks about pornography and how if we have an eye that is lustful, then we can corrupt our whole body. Then later on, I realized that this particular verse is not something that speaks against pornography. There are several other passages in the Bible that heavily condemns pornography, but not this particular verse. This particular verse is a verse that carries what is called as an idiom or figure of speech. We'll see that in the next slide. When the Jews of that particular point in time, to whom the Gospels were written to, looked at these two words. Okay, the first word being evil eye, and the second word being generous eye. They understood that these two are idioms or figures of speech. For example, when somebody said the old man kicked the bucket, doesn't mean there was an old man who got so mad at the bucket that he went and kicked it and hurt himself and the bucket. No, we know that he just died, right? So that's an idiom. And so an ancient Hebrew idiom used the word evil eye to somebody who was stingy, okay? To somebody who had a selfish eye, to somebody who wouldn't part with his money, somebody who wouldn't give his treasures or share it with anybody, somebody who had a love for money, mammon, as the Bible calls it. And so when you look at this verse, Matthew 6:23, but if your eye be evil, your whole body shall be evil, is actually a verse that is an offertory verse. Okay, but we seldom listen to this verse as an offertory verse. How did I discover that this is an offertory verse? Did I have to go and do so many background checks? Nothing. You just look at a verse, a couple of verses above, a couple of verses below. It knows, it becomes immediately very clear to us that the context that is being spoken of there is about money, mammon, treasures in heaven, and being stingy and not generous with your wealth, right? So simple things. I've just taken 10 verses which need no greater understanding of the Bible than for you to just look at one verse above and one verse below, and the meaning becomes amply clear.